Over the next 2 minutes, I want to make you think about and reflect on how many of your students you actually individually interact with in your classroom in any one given lesson. Now, if any of you watch Premier League football, you're probably quite aware that in the match analysis after the game, they quite often use a heat map on an individual player to actually track that player's movements and where that player has ventured and where they haven't ventured on the pitch. And I want to use the same analogy here in your classroom. If you had a teacher heat map, where are the areas in your classroom that you go to? Where are the students that you interact with in question? Where are the ones that you monitor and support? And where have you maybe got some cold zones or some cold spots where actually you naturally don't go to? The problem is we haven't got those GPS trackers, and I'm certainly not saying that we're going to have those with us. But it's really interesting to start to think about and actually analyse where you go, where you don't go. And are there any subconscious areas where actually you're having more impact and more input, and therefore less impact and less input? A great way to do this actually without any kind of modern technology is just to have a seating plan on your desk. And every time you question a student, actually just put a dot on that student, and maybe in one specific colour like a blue. And then maybe actually as you're wandering around, if you're giving any individual support to a student, then put another dot on a student desk, but maybe in a different colour, so you can actually see the quality of the interactions as well. So not just the frequency, but the quality. Now, in the privileged position I am of watching lots of teachers teach, it's really interesting for me to sit back and actually not necessarily do that, but actually just start to look and think about where your heat map is, and are you actually asking more questions to the front of the class or the back of the class, or to the left or to the right, or are there any kind of, is it just boys you're asking? And with that map, actually, you can then start to do that yourself, or with a trusted peer, you might want to observe each other and do that on each other. But it starts then really give you a great honest reflection of where you go in the classroom, who you ask, who you don't ask, because in the moment when we're teaching, we don't really think we've got those biases, and we aren't really cognitively aware enough to be able to do that analysis. But having that map and having that teacher heat map is a great way to actually start to deliberately move in different areas around your classroom, and deliberately choose certain students or certain groups of students or certain areas of your classroom to ask different questions to. So my reflection here is, what does your teacher heat map look like? And actually, when you do that, are there any cold spots? And is it going to actually change the way that you interact and move around your classroom?